Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. Dehneice, and you're welcome to Levi TV. I'm a guest on the show, but at the same time, it feels like it's my show. I'm trying to enjoy myself as well, as I know you're going to enjoy yourself for the little time we're going to be having this conversation. Uh, Reinventing musicianship. Musicians reinventing yourself is the only thing you have to do, because if you do less, you're going to be broke for too long a time, because the times permit that we do not get stuck in the old ways. We do not get stuck in the old fashioned protocols of musicianship. You have to keep on reinventing yourself because the time changes. The season we are. Just imagine what the pandemic did to some musicians who they didn't know how to reinvent themselves. Lots of musicians went broke. Some went out of business. But I'm here to just talk for a couple of minutes about my ideas on musicians reinventing themselves. First, what changes people is knowledge. Do not ever, ever, ever forget that. What changes people is knowledge. And what knowledge does is makes you uncomfortable of the old situation and then help you with information on how to proceed to the next level. So the first thing you have to do is to understand, have a knowledge of what you are at the moment, who you are and what you are in the industry. Don't ever overestimate yourself. Don't ever don't put yourself too much that it makes it look like you have everything. You don't. There's a lot in front of you. So first, know exactly where you are and figure out where you ought to go to, where you ought to be. And knowledge will help you determine by plan how to access where you are going to from where you are. So I'll continue with a few things that happened with me and my experience and work as being a musician for, I think I've played music professionally since 1993. I was 13, and I have almost 6 months experience of being 40 years old. So, so it's been a while, probably about 27 plus years, play music. So when I started, I was pretty much being taken care of. Like I was a kid, I was a teenager. You know, I didn't have to bother about how I eat or who was gonna make my food. I knew my mom was gonna do that. Who was gonna pay my school fees? I knew my mom was gonna do that. Had uncles and aunties and grandparents that if my mom couldn't do anything, she probably would call for help. So that wasn't a bother for me. Uh, so up until when I was like 19, 20, I still had some super great support from parents and guardians and stuff. So being a musician at that period wasn't so much hard for me. It didn't take me too much. It just took me enjoying what I did, and the passion from what I did, kept me going. But up until my 20th, where the world started getting clear to me that I was not going to have too much support. I would have to stand up for myself and do things that will make me happy and also make me grow. Because I know those are the two very strong reasons for living: happiness and growth. I don't know if I've said it before for you here, but I would stress it again and again. It is happiness and it is growth. Even God will not be impressed if you're not happy and you are not growing. Yeah, I'm a Christian too. And sometimes Christian might say we are living for we're living for the happiness of God. We're all here to live to please God. Yes, God made us so that He would be happy, and because He cannot grow because He is already God, so the growth part is for us, and the growth part is for longevity, for us to keep being happy and to keep being happy because when God made us, He made us insatiable, as in you cannot totally satisfy a man. Somehow he would be uncomfortable and want more until he meets that standard of God. And so in the course of my work as a musician, I had to be at school. University came calling. And that's where I noticed that the support that I had, started giving me, green lights to stay on my own, to do stuff for myself, make decisions for me. If I was going to do music, it was totally going to be on my terms, not on their terms, not my parents' terms, not my uncles and aunties' terms. Thank God they made me go to school, so it wasn't just me being running haywire. I went to school, but I was focused on the fact that school was to help me get the exposure and the ability to interact with people while I did music. And every other thing that I do now, I am an audio consultant, but I started first with having to play music, and I got interested in how does this music sound, how does it affect people, and that is how I got into doing what I did. Got into school, learned a couple, did a few seminars, attended a few seminars, a few master classes, and boom, this is what I've become. But I need you to understand that reinventing yourself will require you knowing exactly where you are at the moment, knowing where you ought to be, and designing a pathway for you to follow. The world right now during the pandemic, in fact, right now there are less physical shows. Everything is almost virtual. Drummer is playing with you, and there's no crowd. The musicians are playing, you're playing with people, the singer is singing with you, but less crowd. So already, gate fees are taken out of the picture. But we hope to have more gate fees so we can get back to what we used to. But right now, since gate fees are not in the picture, you have to reinvent. Now, this is where knowing that we need to get that success in career, which does not require lots of people watching you at the same time in the same space where you're performing. So already, you have to reinvent your performance abilities, your performance, your disposition. Now it's not in front of people who will clap and inspire you. Now it's in front of cameras and iPads, screen, and GoPros and stuff and equipment, and probably not very conducive environment. But the idea is people need to see products from you, because it's products that brings payment. People don't pay for non-products. They pay for products. They pay for services. And this, being a musician, it means you're supposed to supply a service or supply a product. So reinventing yourself means coming from where the only product you have is standing on the stage and performing great music to where you can have great music get to the people when they don't come to you. So knowing exactly how to handle that first part of being a musician is one. Then the other part is you have to diversify, because, music pays, but sometimes it's like an elephant trying to have a kid. The gestation period of an elephant is way longer than the gestation periods of rats. So musicians are like elephants. Your gestation period for your music to become boom is always, sometimes pretty long, because people have to get used to you. You have to do promo and publicity and do a lot for you to get there where people can pay for your product and pay in large quantities, because paying for your product by just 20 people does not make any sense, because there's an aim for me. I need to make more money than I can spend. So that means it has to come from lots of people. That means I have to increase my productivity that can reach out to thousands and probably millions of people. So how do you get that happening? Now that is where you come on the drawing board and draw your life, draw your future on the board, so you can know the paths and places to take to get to where you intend to be. And secondly, I would totally, the word reinvent means a couple for me, reinventing as a musician. Also for me, I would add the word diversify. I don't know if it makes sense to anybody who's listening. Diversification. Aside reinventing, you have to diversify. Now, and I've seen lots of musicians who left just playing performance music to, music production, from performance music to producing music. Some to therapeutic music. I've seen people who basically just play for, churches only. That's devotion, music for devotion, performance for devotion. Some people play for clubs, performance for entertainment. Some people play in the morning for people to get, mentally okay. That's therapeutic, performances, those are different things. Reinvent yourself, put yourself through education, teaching people. I have a friend who teach my kids how to play. I have a boy, one of my boys, he teaches my kids how to play. He gets paid every month. And I wonder how many other families he's doing that for. So imagine that earns him money for him to take. And I'm sure it's putting himself through school and getting a couple of things done for himself. So all of those work, having to reinvent. You just can't sit down and wait for performance from the places that you performed before. You have to find a way to keep up with these physical Kardashians, financial Kardashians, like I would call it. So let's continue with the fact that if you use the word diversification, I've mentioned a couple, have to move into education, move into production, move into sample creation for those who are into production. We give you the materials for you to use for your production. Someone recently called me and said, you play so good, have to sit back, get a couple of the stuff that you've played, cut them into samples that we can use for production because you sound so good. I'm like, okay, let's split the time and sit back together and cut it so we can have something to put for other producers to use, because this cannot just finish here. And he said, okay, we have an appointment for that for later in the year. Later in the month. So that's me having to have tools for production, not just being a producer, not just being a consultant. So I am diversifying. I am adding to what I do. Please, this is the 21st century. You need to reinvent as a musician. You need to reinvent so you can survive the struggles of the moment. The pandemic hit us so hard, and now when we're coming out, we need to come out strong and bold. I need you to understand that all we desire is to make our happiness go higher and strengthen the length of time that we are happy. That's happiness and growth. And growth, I'm using growth for time, using growth for stability as well. So that is what I think we should do. And I hope in the space of time I'll be able to say these to you. It's just my decision to do this. And I need you to take a decision too, because it is crazy to have just one musician succeed or some musicians succeed and some come and use the word, oh, he's using something. It doesn't make sense. Other musicians are diversifying. Don't get stuck in the old ways. Don't get stuck in the old ways. Diversify. Reinvent yourself. Thanks to Levi TV for having me on the show to talk about this. And ladies and gentlemen, reinvent yourself as musicians. Thank you.